like to call the meeting of the North Little Rock Planning Commission to order, please. Excuse me, would you please call the roll?
Present. Yes. Here.
Wallace, present.
All
Present.
the time.
Here.
Move to excuse those not present.
Motion made and seconded to excuse those not present. All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Along with Miss Elaine Lee, who is with us always, we are glad to have our city attorney, Miss Amy Fields, with us today.
Thank you.
We will do our selection of the, or election of the officers on our next month's meeting on May the 9th. You have been submitted a copy of the minutes of our.
They're going to take office next time, so, I mean, you're welcome to postpone it, but it says vote date, and they'll take office next month.
Mr. White.
I would like to elect our chairman as our new chairman.
I move to elect our current officers as next year's officers.
Second.
Motion made and seconded that the current slate of officers be re-elected. Are there any other nominations from the floor? All in favor of the nominated officers, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
You'll all take office.
We'll take office next month.
So do we get today off?
Pardon me?
Ms. Fields is what
Yes, Ms. Fields.
I was, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I know that last month you all had a situation arise that I think has been unique, at least in the last several years, to the city of North Little Rock. Sean and I have been friends for a long time, and I actually started working here the first time like 18 years ago, but you all had a site plan review come before you, and there was a neighboring property owner who spoke against the site plan review and had some objections to that, and you all ultimately voted not to approve the site plan or the replat of the property. At that time, now I've been a city attorney for almost 20 years, either here or in Little Rock, and so I was familiar with the situation, but this was unique to the city of North Little Rock in at least the last 17 years, and so sometimes when things come up, you just don't know what you don't know. But I do think that Mr. Chambers informed you all at the time that there is a case out of the city of Little Rock that's many years old. It's back from the 80s. It's called Richardson versus City of Little Rock. And on site plan reviews and on approval of plats. You all's job as planning commissioners is to look at the zoning ordinance, to look at the subdivision ordinance, to look at the master street plan ordinance, and see, does that site plan and does the plat meet the requirements, meet the minimum requirements of the ordinance that's been passed by the city council. And that's your discretion right there. Does it or does it not? Now, if you all find something and have evidence before you that it does not, that's the only time that you all can lawfully vote not to approve the site plan. Now, this was later corrected at the city council, and it's, you know, in the whole grand scheme of things, like, it was not a big deal, except it's the first time that it's come up in many years. So Sean asked me to come here today and just give y'all just a little tutorial on what your role is on those things. Now, on rezonings, like, you've got some discretion there. And it's just a recommendation to the city council. So, so then they also have discretion, but the site plan review and the preliminary plat ends with you all. So once there's not any evidence that it doesn't meet the minimum requirements of the ordinances that have been passed by the city council, then you all's discretion ends. And you are under an obligation to approve it. I think that the same developers here today, in that situation worked out in a different type of situation, not to be a doom and gloomer, but it could lead to liability for the city if a developer suffered damages because of your denial. So I would just ask you all, and again, I'm not here to fuss at anybody or say anybody did anything wrong, because it was a little bit of a unique situation, but just to keep that in mind in the future on those types of items. And they always go to the design review committee first. So without any evidence it doesn't meet the minimum requirements, then you are without discretion. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Foster?
Based upon what you just told us,
Well,
you got a staff over there that's gonna make those determinations, why don't they do that?
by state law, you review staff's write-up and their obligations, and members of the community are also free to come to the planning commission and disagree with staff and say, no, look at this doesn't meet the minimum requirements that city council has met. So that's why you all are here on those things, and on the rezonings, on when we passed a new zoning ordinance. You all are here to make recommendations to the city council, and you have an important role, but your role on those things is just administrative to review that. So, I mean, you do have a real important reason for being here. Does that make sense, Mr. Foster?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Are you sure?
Yeah, I am, I
Okay.
understand that, but I just, situations change, you know, not every site, not every developer, not every owner is all the same, you know, and I see those differences, but what you're telling me is, regardless of that, if they don't meet the requirements, they don't meet the requirements, and
Right.
we have the right to either deny or approve it. So
Right. That is exactly
we
right.
usually go by the recommendations
Yeah.
of our staff over here, who we have a lot of trust in.
Right.
So,
And rightfully so. I've, in the 5.5 years I've been city attorney, I've been, and I've worked for different municipalities. We've got great staff here. And so I understand that. But there may be an occasion when they miss something and somebody comes in and convinces you otherwise, that they missed something and it doesn't comply with the ordinance.
Okay, Mr. Chambers?
Yeah, I guess the reason we're there is that very few plats perfectly meet all requirements of the ordinance, and every developer wants some small variance or some small consideration, and we have to approve that minor waiver, lot area or building line, or, you know, they don't want an easement here and the city thinks they should have one. So not every last plat is perfect. And I think of all of them I've ever seen, I think 10% of them came in as being absolutely no variation from the city rules. They met every jot and tittle. So yeah, there's a purpose there for reviewing them.
There absolutely is, and I will also remind you all that if there is a waiver that needs to be made, those go to city council and they consider those waivers. If there is a variance that there's something unique to the property and it creates a hardship for the developer, then that goes to the Board of Adjustments. So there is, I mean, I am not discounting at all what you all do, because it is real important. And as I have sat in the city council for the last 5.5 years and seen your recommendations approved by the city council on rezoning matters where they have the final decision, they have a lot of faith in you all. And you all do a great job here on reviewing those things and looking at what's in the best interest of the community.
Thank you, Ms. Fields, for being here and clearing that up for us and
Sure.
giving us those comments.
Sure. All right. And with that, Mr. Chairman, if I could be excused, I'm going to leave y'all with Miss Lee.
Yes, ma'am. you
All
may.
righty.
I just
Thank
have
you.
one comment. I missed one meeting.
Mr. Rodney missed one meeting, and they called in the city attorney for the next meeting, so we expect you to be here.
What can I say? Good move.
Deal, okay. Thank you. Okay,
Minutes.
you have been submitted a copy of the minutes of our previous meetings. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as presented? Mr. White?
Do we need to correct this, what she explained?
No, that
I
was
don't
corrected
think
at city
so.
council.
That was corrected at the city council.
Want to make sure y'all ain't get in trouble again.
Move for approval?
Motion made that be approved as submitted. All in favor, aye. Opposed? Thank you. Okay, we'll move right into our planning commission items. Our first item is if there is anyone here that is wanting to talk about the 7100 Colonel Maynard Road application that has been postponed until our next month's meeting, so that will not be heard today. First item is 2023-04, 1723 West 29th and 1906 Flora, a rezoning from R3 to C4 to recognize two existing single-family homes on one lot. Is the applicant here?
I think that was R3 to R4, sir.
R3 to R4.
Yes.
Is the applicant here? Yes, please come up and give us your name for the record.
Danny Jimenez.
I'm sorry?
Danny Jimenez.
All right. Staff is supportive of this request. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this application? Any comments from any of the commissioners? On the application as submitted, please call the roll.
Banks? Chambers?
I abstain.
Foster?
Yes.
Phillips? Yes. Pierce? Yes. Wallace? Yes. White? Yes. And Chairman Clifton?
Yes, your application did pass here. See Mr. Spencer, and he can tell you where to go next. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Item number 2 has been postponed. We'll move to item number 3, subdivision 2023-28 Giles Addition, Lot 7R, Block 10, for replat and site plan review for 5 townhomes at 400 Division Street in North Little Rock. Is the applicant here?
It's my item, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry?
It's my item, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, it is.
No
Go right
problem.
ahead.
No problem. Item 3 is SD 2023-28 Giles Addition, Lot 7R, Block 10, replat and site plan review for 5 townhomes at 400 Division Street. The applicant was present at the committee meeting and agreed to items 1 through 16 and subsections, and the Design Review Committee recommends approval.
Second. Motion made and seconded. This item be approved as submitted. Is the applicant here? Have any comments?
Thomas Pownell with Thomas Engineering. No comments unless you have questions for me.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this application? Any comments from any of the commissioners? Please call the roll.
Banks? Yes. Chambers?
Yes.
Foster?
Same.
Phillips? Yes. Pierce? Yes. Wallace? Yes. White? Yes. And Chairman Clifton?
Yes. Your application was approved. See Mr. Spencer, and he can tell you where to go next. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is rezone case 2023-07, 403 Parker Street, to rezone from R4 to a PUD to allow for development of 5 townhomes. Is the applicant? Give us your name for the record, please.
Yes, sir. Thomas Pownell with Thomas Engineering.
Okay. This item was postponed from our last month's meeting. In lieu of what our city attorney has told us, staff, does this meet every requirement from the subdivision?
So this is a rezoning. So I'm saying it does, but I mean, you have the option,
Yeah.
you can vote either way because it's a rezoning.
Okay.
So it's not a site plan review, so it's sort of, that's up to you all. But give you a little background, they were going to build it, it's allowed by right in R5 or R4. And so staff recommended to do a PUD to bring the buildings up to the front. So instead of the neighbors looking at a parking lot with cars, they're looking at a building and the cars are hidden behind it. So in this situation, it's perfect use of a PUD. You know, we're not using it to break any of the rules, we're using it to look better. So it's a perfect situation for a PUD by,
Okay.
our definitions.
Do you have any comments you'd like to make?
No, sir.
Is there anyone in the audience who have any comments on this application? Any comments from any of the commissioners?
Is this not the same scenario that city council overturned last week that we denied?
The city council approved it. We denied it.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Is
Correct,
this
yeah.
not the same scenario?
It's a mirror object on the other side of the alley,
Right,
yes.
The other one was a rezone from
Correct.
R4 to the
It's
PUD.
yeah, the exact same situation.
Same scenario, but why are we voting on it? I mean, it's already, whether we vote on it or not, it's going to be approved by city council.
It's a zoning. It's not a subdivision, it's a zoning.
Mr. Foster, this is a rezone, not anything to do with the replat. There are two, if I'm not mistaken, there are two separate 5-unit townhomes. Is that correct? And one was pulled last month. And so when we were here last month, there was something that went to city council on the one that was actually heard here. And I think after discussion last month, the second item that was on the agenda was pulled for the second set of townhomes. And so this is different from what has already gone to city council. Does that make sense? Okay.
Any other comments from the commissioners? Please call the roll.
Banks? Chambers?
Yes.
Foster?
Yes.
Phillips? Pierce? Wallace? White? And Chairman Clifton?
Yes. Application did pass, and Mr. Spencer can tell you where to go next. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is subdivision. Mr. Chambers?
Item 5 is SD 2023-30, Giles Addition, Lot AR, Block 10, replat and site plan review for 5 townhomes at 403 Parker Street. The applicant was present, agreed to items 1 through 16 and subsections, and the Development Design Review Committee recommends approval.
Does the applicant agree with all of the requirements that were made, the recommendations?
We do, Mr. Clifton.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this application? Are there any comments from any of the commissioners? Does this subdivision application meet all of the requirements of the subdivision ordinance?
Yes, with the approval of the PUD at city council, it will meet the requirements.
No variances?
No variances, other than the PUD itself.
Okay. Ms. Chambers?
We're also approving the site plan, so the plat is just the survey and the setbacks and all that, but we're also approving the site plan, so that is an approval process.
Any other comments? On the application, please call the roll.
Banks? Chambers?
Yes.
Foster?
Yes.
Phillips? Pierce? Wallace? White? And Chairman Clifton?
Yes, the application did pass.
Thank you.
Let's see. Yes, sir. Next item on our agenda is public comment. Anyone have any public comments at this time? Comment possibly for staff. in lieu of what our city attorney has told us, and Mr. Foster's comment, feeds right into that, is there not a way, and I don't, and she, as she said, it was very unique for us. We don't have anything like that, but isn't there a way that can be posted on these that come up like this, that everything meets it, that everything meets the subdivision ordinance, and there's no variances, there's no problems with anything, so,
We could add a number 1 to the list that says all requirements have been met, or other
subdivision.
than city council needs to issue a waiver, or something like that. But we
Something like
can make a
that.
number 1 at the top that makes a statement of the background and what's, you know, if there's any waivers or that type of thing.
yes, sir.
I think she specifically mentioned subdivision, zoning, and master street plan.
Correct.
And if you meet all three of those, all the minor details of all three of those, then if there's a site plan, we're approving it, but if it's just a plat, then I would believe staff could approve it unless staff doesn't want to approve it and would feel more comfortable with the planning commission voicing its opinion on it. I mean, there's two things there. Sometimes staff wants the responsibility, sometimes they don't.
So if you remember right before COVID started, so, 3 years ago, we'd actually hired a consultant that was helping us rewrite the subdivision ordinance, and that was one of the things to come out of the subdivision ordinance, that some items may end at subdivision meeting, or the DRC, and not have to come all the way here.
There you go.
So that
Yes.
we're getting ready back to hire the guy back and start working again on it. So everything, it was hard to have meetings.
Okay.
But we're heading back that direction, so.
Okay.
Chairman Clifton,
Ms.
yes, sir, thank you. I just want to sort of go back and repeat what Ms. Fields said, and that is that you are all able to ask if minimum requirements have been met. If staff says yes, I believe for the most part, we are very lucky that we do have a staff that, we all trust. Ms. Fields has worked with for a very long time. That there may be a particular time when someone speaks in opposition to an application where you may be swayed that minimum requirements have not been met. And so she did say that there is a possibility that that comes up where you may not agree that they have been met. So we do rely on staff very heavily, but there may be something that comes up during discussion where it may look like they have not been met. So when she talks about you do have discretion on those things, you do. But it would be a unique situation for there to be something that I would think to say they have not in fact been met. But that is one particular place where you would still have some discretion, even if staff is saying, yes, minimum requirements have been met.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lee. Mr. Foster?
I want to just let my fellow commissioners know that, my opposition to this project is not personal at all. I don't have anything against developers, as engineer, anybody like that. But, I guess all of us, myself included, feel like we represent the community. And we represent especially those people who call and give legitimate reasons for opposition or approval for any item that comes before us, and I was just trying to, I kind of felt that I agreed with some of those, and I was just, that was the reason I took the positions that I've taken on these issues of the development down in that area. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows that, and there's nothing personal involved here. I was just trying to represent those people who I'm, supposed to be representing.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Foster. Any other comments? Yes, ma'am. Give us your name, please, for the record.
I'm Stephanie Loggins, and I'm here regarding item number 2 that was postponed.
Yes, ma'am.
May I ask why that was postponed and who requested for that to be postponed?
Spencer?
The applicant requested it to be postponed to allow this additional time to continue to meet with the neighbors because they felt like that there were some questions that still had not been answered from the Ecotech company that the neighbors were raising. And they felt like with the additional 30 days that they could get at least get the neighbors' questions answered.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Hear a motion? I didn't see him raise his hands. Okay. Okay, motion, someone.
I'm enjoying getting y'all lectured.
Second.
Second, we adjourn. All in favor, aye. Opposed, thank you.